Welcome to the Frank Islam Show. I'm your host, Frank Islam. Today, our guest is a well-known figure in the Washington South Asian art and culture circles, Manjula Kumar. Her day job is as a program director at the Smithsonian Institution, where she has produced and presented a number of shows over 3 decades. She's also an educator, actor, director, and activist. Manjula is a firm believer in using art and culture as a vehicle for peace. So welcome to the show, Manjula.
Thank
it is
you
a pleasure
so
to
much.
having you.
Thank you.
So May is now as known as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So let's just start with the question related to Asian American Pacific Islander communities. They become more visible in the culture arena. In the past couple of decades, they've been extremely visible. Please share with our viewers the Smithsonian's activities related to Asian Americans.
Well, you know, the month of May, it's such a beautiful, gorgeous month in our city that we have grabbed as Asian Americans. As you said, the fastest growing, very visible. We're only 6% of the population, but most educated, affluent, and very active in the cultural landscape. And I feel very fortunate that at the Smithsonian Institution, I came in to the institution with the Festival of India, and I was hired to bring in new audiences, to bring diverse audiences, to bring in intergenerational audiences. And at that time, there was nothing really being done at the Smithsonian Institution. And the federally designated Asian American Heritage Month had just about been set at the institution. So then, as chair of the committee, we produced so many programs with dance and music and drama. And one of the programs that stands out in my mind, the Washington Post had given us a grant. They said, what is this bhangra? Can you do
what's
something?
A
Bhangra.
Okay.
So the Smithsonian Institution, and we decided to produce this, but to bring communities, whether it was Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Indian,
Sure.
and also intergenerational. We said we'll do starting from the roots. So I called it From Roots to Shoots, Bhangra in Washington, D.C., how it started, and discovered that there were so many of these youngsters, you know, George Washington University having Bhangra competition. So it was a real growth spurt, and people who walked into the National Museum of Natural History looking at the rotunda saying, what is this? Where are we? So it was quite a landmark in getting these audiences.
So that's a signature accomplishment.
Years ago, but we've come a long, long way from there. At the Smithsonian now, there is the Asian American Center. You know Conrad, who's the director over there.
Right.
And a lot of activities, a lot more since, are being done. But specifically for Indian Americans, just recently, in fact, early this May, I produced a concert, Dhrupad, The Mysticism of Sound, with the famous Gundecha brothers, who performed at the National Museum of American History, Warner Theatre. And, you know, while performing arts, as you said, my passion, my love to produce those programs. It can be for a one evening, but just recently we have online audience. So while we filled the auditorium with the live audience, we had 4,183 online watching the concert worldwide.
So the wide circulation.
Because they are so popular.
Sure.
And then, as different from news snippets, when you have quality arts programs, like this one happened to be, then you have a webcast, which gives it a much longer life.
Sure.
So, and then the most challenging for me, perhaps, in this endeavor to bring audiences on the Asian American was a 2-day symposium I did on Sufism, which was 2 years ago. And that was bringing in, combining, blending, working together right from Iran and Afghanistan
All over the world,
and Pakistan, pretty much actually as, Sufism, so that part of the world, but happening here. And that's another one, that it was a 2-day symposium, it's a webcast, and we still continue to get hits right from the whirling dervishes from Turkey to Sufi Kathak from New Delhi. So it's keeping it alive is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
Maybe
So
short,
that's
but
great.
keeping
You're also the founder of Global Performing Arts. And the mission of the organization is using art as a vehicle to promote peace, harmony, and cultural understanding. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, in my pursuit of presenting excellence in arts, whenever some things, not everything can fit in the format and the framework of the Smithsonian, so Global Performing Arts was established almost 20 years ago to again bring in different communities on the arts platforms to promote better understanding, harmony, learning through the arts. And my effort, my endeavor in all my work has been, it's public service, but it's a 3-pronged effort for you and I. It's perhaps childhood memories, it's heritage, it's our roots, and we have brought it here. And so we want to indulge. It's sort of an indulgence. Friends come together and let's enjoy a music program. Secondly, it's a legacy that we want to pass on to our next generation. But perhaps most importantly, we want to share this heritage and this enjoyment, this learning of the arts through the arts with a mainstream audience. And so Global Performing Arts was set so that we're able to do things, turn them around quickly, in many creative ways. I don't have so much of the structure that I have to follow with the Smithsonian. And here too, we've done the gamut from Shairi Ki Ek Sham to music. And yes, art, my mantra is what Picasso says, arts washes away from the soul the dust of everyday life.
As President John F. Kennedy said, art nourishes the roots of our culture.
Exactly.
So I want to kind of shift the gears and talk about the Noor, which I have been part of it, and I had a great honor to work with you and Dr. Akbar Ahmed, and there was a great collaboration between the two of you. How are they played to see within the South Asian communities? And also all over the world.
Yeah,
You're distributing it all over the world.
Absolutely. Akbar Ahmed has written 2 plays, and he had asked me to do his earlier plays, which was The Trial of Dara Shikoh.
That was the first one you collaborated with him.
The first, and his first play. Mm-hmm. And being a period play, and I'm deeply, deeply, passionately interested, moved by the Mughal history, and so this gave an opportunity. But that being a period play was a challenge as a director, as an actor, for the costumes, the music, and actually he wrote Noor before he wrote The Trial of Dara Shikoh. And
for the audience, Dara Shikoh was the first son of the crown prince in America after Shah Jahan. He was the son of Shah Jahan.
Shah Jahan. And to be the ruler, if it hadn't been for his brother Aurangzeb. And the most perhaps fascinating character in Mughal history. And can be applied, there can be a parallel today between extremism, moderation, between love for music and art and just religion for, the severity. Anyway, for that was Trial of Dara Shikoh. Dr. Ahmed had been asking me to do Noor, and I kept saying, oh, there's too much talk about terrorism and extremism and fundamentalism. But the day the Boston bombing happened, and I just sat in front of the television wondering what what was it that made these two young boys do what they did that day? And this play just haunted me, and I just had to do it. And again, because the theme was very important, it was almost like I needed a catharsis myself. And then I got so much encouragement, interest from young and old who said this has to be done, and we got a cast together. And the play was very well received for two performances at American University and at Montgomery College. But in all my career of directing and acting, a play is put together, it's expensive, we put in so much effort, and then it's lost. And so I had to come begging. And thanks to you, you gave us a generous contribution, support, to take a staged play on the screen.
To the wider distribution.
As a screen version, and
Right.
for a much wider, and forever.
Yeah,
It has a life. That, and what's very interesting is that although the play, the screen version, is set, but wherever we are taking it, like you were there on the panel at Montgomery College,
Right.
the discussion, sometimes before, why the play and all, and usually after, can be so different depending on where it is.
I want to come back to the nude play because it's fascinating for the audience to know a little bit about the character, about the play, what's the significance of that after I take a break. We'll come back in a minute. Welcome back to the show. We were talking to Manjula Kumar regarding the nude play. So I want to ask her about the nude play, which has been widely distributed in this part of the country and has been widely received. I wanted to find out a little bit about what's the distribution mechanism is, what is it going, not only in the United States, but all over the world, and what has been the reaction from the audience, and what has been the significance of this. Tell us a little bit about it.
When I first picked it up, I was a little skeptical.
Sure.
I thought the Muslim community may have a reaction, that this is not authentic, this is not real. And the climate, especially in this country where we were, staging it for the first time. But it was very, very important, still is important, to get it out to the world what Akbar Ahmed, I think, has meant, and I certainly as a director also want to show the three pillars of Islam that the three brothers represent. And then the father, the noble father, who has all of those, the extreme, the Sufi, the moderate lawyer, embodies all of it. And then there is the mother with the aunt with a very traditional. So on the surface, it seems, okay, so it's about Islam and it's about terrorism, but it's got a very universal appeal to. It can be any family, it can be brothers with different ideologies. So people from all walks of life, from all cultures, religions, languages, are relating to this play and understanding it, analyzing it, and leading to discussions that we're not even aware of. We did even while we were rehearsing the play. So now the plan for it is, I do want to have more screenings first in our city. We've been invited to Chicago, we've been invited to California, but I do want a live discussion to follow the screening. For the moment, or at least for a while, I don't want it to go static on any of the channels, or whether it's in India or Pakistan or Dubai. Some people asked. We have to keep it alive with live discussions, because that's the true extent. And you saw at Montgomery College how many students came up with completely unrelated sometimes.
It's a different perspective.
Yes.
How do you navigate the whole India-Pakistan politics? Both communities, at least the majority, seem to be nationalistic, carry the baggage from the respective countries. And you have been a sort of an important glue between the two communities.
I don't think it's just the two communities, really.
You're talking about the whole South Asian
uh,
community?
No, I think, look at us, we are living in the United States. I
Right.
was born in Kolkata. I grew up in Delhi, had a second incarnation in London, went to university, and here I am in Washington, D.C. So I really don't see myself or a lot of the people that I meet with very defined national identities. I mean, when we talk about our own cultural identities too, we're all so blended, So the lines are not, I know this discussion is forever, it goes on. I personally don't have any problems, but I do see the work. Again, I come to the arts programs, whether it's music. I just did a program on Qawwali, and we had a lot of Hindus, sitting and enjoying and learning the other, and having no problem with Allahu. Then I went to the Pakistan embassy. I may have been the or I was
You
at the
mean only
Turkish
Indian there, you know what you're saying? Turkish
I was-
embassy? Yeah.
I could go to the Turkish embassy, and that's what makes, I think, our lives here so rich, so open. But we need to do more work,
So we have to embrace these things.
Not only embrace, but firstly, that's why I say arts is a vehicle for promoting understanding rather than just religion or rather than just politics, because actually when politics comes into it is where the real problems are. Like, what Akbar Ahmed's dream is, and he keeps telling me, we have to take Noor to Islamabad and Lahore, and we're going to cross the Wagah border and do it in Amritsar and Delhi and wherever
So she's got a
else we
grand
can
plan.
take it. So, but at least this is exactly what's needed. And I think beyond just the Wagah border, there are borders here that we need to, and we're trying to, and I think we have crossed. So I personally don't have any problems. There are no, national identities or how do I crisscross. I have absolutely, but we need to do more. We need more people who are, even if there are borders, who are crossing borders and going beyond the language, the cultural barriers, and well, I think then there are the socio-economic barriers that we have, created. But I do find that arts, whether it's music, our Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore said, music fills the infinite between souls.
Wow.
You are sitting in an auditorium and you have people from all walks of life, languages. At the Smithsonian, I had people come to listen to Pandit Jasraj for the first time ever. They had never heard Indian music before, and they were completely taken up. And so was it with the Gundecha brothers. So that opening up, so that sharing through the arts, and then getting deeper into a culture, deeper into, so that's the, in the Hindu Vedas this happens, or in the Qawwali this
Sure.
happens. It's a much nicer, much more open way of coming together.
As I understand, you have been a recipient of the Gandhi Memorial Foundation's Fellowship of Peace Award. So what does that award mean to you? And when did you get it? What does it do?
Looking back, I think that was one of the most meaningful days for me. It was one of my happiest days. This award, or any award, did not come to me from a community. It did not come to me from my employer. It came to me from Srimati Kamlaji.
Yes, I
and
do know
Carrie,
her. Yes.
and Carrie Tribulak, why was it given, who share the same values, this to me is an acknowledgement. It's a recognition of work. And what does it do for me? It has endorsed my work. It encourages me. It has given me fuel, as it were, to continue so that I can keep reaching. I'm always looking for that mountaintop, if there is one. And it did mean a lot.
So what
in
does the
that
Peace
sense.
Award, they give it to the ordinary citizens, this Peace Award from the Gandhi Memorial Foundations? So did they give it to the everybody, or how did this work?
It has been given, I think, every 3 or 4 years.
Okay,
they
okay.
select
So it's a pretty significant
somebody.
award.
It meant a lot to me
Sure.
coming from them, and just so that this work is meaningful and that it's getting, and it was recognized by them.
So you were recognized and rewarded for your talent.
I don't think it's just talent. I think it was, okay, so this work is important, so is hers. Her work is interfaith. The Gandhi Center, it's an institution that I really respect, and so is Srimati Kamlaji. And I think what that award also means is the recognition of ideologies, of philosophies, of how to come together in harmony, and as it says, a peace award.
Peace Award. That's wonderful. Now, do you keep track of the artistic thing that's happening in India? You lived all your life abroad, pretty much.
Oh, with our world today of email and Twitter and
So you keep
and communication, yes, absolutely. And I go.
India is rich in
I go-
history,
history,
art, culture, civilization.
No
Goes
matter
back thousands of years.
absolutely, no matter what I say about the pollution of Delhi and the socio-economic, the
dirt in
political
desperate
mess.
world,
But every time I go, and I go almost every year, I'm so uplifted
Sure.
by the immense, important work, the creativity that's going on in the world of the arts, the poetry and drama and films. But because there's a lot, it takes something, it takes an aesthetic, I think, to choose. I'll keep getting, do this, do that, but you have to be very selective. What will work here? What will be successful? And so I'm constantly, all my antennas up, looking for, what to bring for our audiences here. And it's a very discerning audience that you can, select from. And it's a growing audience. And as I said earlier, we need to also bring the best, bring quality programs amidst everything else that's happening that we can share with the mainstream audience to tell them. Arts, it's an indulgence, but it's also learning about dance, music, literature, music, but through the arts.
Well, thank you very much for your time. You
Thank
seem
you.
to be very passionate and very committed.
That's why I can go on and on.
You sure can. Thank you for watching the show. Please join us next week for another edition of the show. This is Frank Islam wishing you a great week.